This podcast was recorded May 28th, 2020. Did you know that almonds contain 75 milligrams of magnesium? And magnesium affects serotonin, which helps to calm us. And did you know that dark chocolate can actually help in anxiety? These and other things are important factors to understand about food and anxiety. Welcome to an off-the-cuff podcast for the Invisible Wheelchair. Today, I'm introducing you to a special 4-part series that I'm doing regarding food and anxiety. Now, these podcasts are different than what I normally put out. These are actually a mixture of informational podcasts mixed with an interview podcast. And unfortunately, with these, there's not going to be a tapping session that goes along with it. But I have invited 4 special guests who I believe are my experts in this field to talk about food and its effects on anxiety. In part 1 of ours, which is coming out in just a few days, we're going to be talking about how the stomach actually affects the brain, kind of how they work together. Part 2, we're going to be talking about specific foods that probably need to be avoided and at least checked into to see the sensitivity and how they might negatively affect anxiety. Part 3, we're going to talk about processed foods, which I think are very much, there's a lot of confusion around. People don't understand what processed foods are and how they affect anxiety, how they affect our stomach and our brain. And so I really want to delve into them to really understand them and to know what you can do about them. And part 4, we're going to talk about what are some good foods to eat, how to find them, and of course what you can do right now to change your diet, to really help your anxiety, to help your stomach, to help your brain. And there may even be a possible bonus to all of this. I just really feel like it's important for people to understand the effects that food has on anxiety and how much control it has on our brain. As I talk with parents, as I talk with people, I really see how much we've kind of been, conditioned by the corporations to accept whatever they put into the foods. And what they're putting into foods is not the best stuff. And it really can have strong effects on how we live our lives, how we have anxiety or don't have anxiety. So I really believe it's important to fully understand how much that food plays into the role of anxiety in our life. And of course, this podcast is about OCD and about anxiety, which really OCD is an anxiety disorder. And I have seen the effects on food personally with my own kids and my 2 with OCD that I deal with, and how much certain foods can really change that. And what I also want to, and I'll probably talk about after all of this, is how you can really get tested for these kind of foods to figure out what your sensitivity is, what your allergic reaction to certain foods. So there's allergic reactions, there's resistance, and then there's sensitivity to foods. And there's testing that can be done for all of this to really be able to determine which foods I really need to avoid, which foods are inflammatory. That's a big, huge part of it, and I believe we'll probably talk about that in these podcasts, about the fact that they inflame us, our bodies, and our brain, and cause a lot of problems because of that inflammation. So, in this process of these 4 podcasts, I want to be able to hopefully educate you on what this whole process is between the stomach and the brain, because even nowadays they are calling the stomach the second brain. And so it has to be really emphasized how important it is to take care of the stomach, take care of the gut, so that it is healthy to be able to have a healthy brain. And like I said, I've seen the reduction in anxiety in my own personal life, plus with the clients that I work with. Because even though I'm not a nutritionalist, I always talk about here's some things you probably want to look at, and here's where you can go to look at them. Here's the people that can help you through that. And those people are some of the people that I have on this 4-part series, the people that can take you through that. Because with each one of them, I've seen them change people's lives by changing their diet. It's a part of the different healing that we do. There's many parts. To me, healing is a very complex process because it has to look at the whole body, the whole function of the body, the environment that we have, the food that we eat, the things that we do, the stress that we carry, the emotional stuff. So health and food go hand in hand in making for a healthy person. And I wanted to be able to get that out in this series of podcasts to understand the food part of it. So in this, like I said, I hope to educate you and my audience on the power of food. You know, there's a saying, I'm not sure if I know who I could quote it from. I believe it goes way back to somebody like Socrates or one of those that says, food is our medicine. And it is so true. Medicine came about from the process of natural. And so we really have to get back to the natural, and that's dealing with food and different things that we can do in our diet that can really make a difference in our health. So that's what this 4-part series is about, and we'll be running them starting in a couple of days, and then every week after that for 4 weeks we'll be running this series to be able to help you understand food and help you understand how it's affecting anxiety, affecting the brain. So I hope you enjoy them. I hope that too, that you will comment on them, and I would emphasize that if you can, to please go to www.invisiblewheelchair.com and please send us some comments on each one of these, including this one if you wish. If you have questions that you'd like me to address in future podcasts based on what we've talked about in these series, please let me know that, because that will help me to develop more. I have plenty of people and resources that can answer these questions. So again, I'll remind you to please go to invisiblewheelchair.com and place a comment underneath any one of these so that I can help to create better, more educational podcasts so we can all have better health. And I will remind you to subscribe so that you can get regular notifications. And if you know somebody that would like to tell their story about OCD or anxiety, maybe it's a success story, maybe it's a story of just what you're going through, to vent it out, to let it out, we'd love to have that. We now have the stories from the OCD side that we can tell those stories in, that we'll do each month. So please go to www.invisiblewheelchair.com, and on the left-hand side you'll see the little logo for the stories from the OCD side. There you can click and notify us that you want to be on the podcast, or you know somebody that wants to be on the podcast, and we'll be happy to contact them, get them interviewed, and get them their words and their story out on the podcast. So enjoy this series that's coming real soon. Pay attention in the next week or so, and you'll see the very first one. And I thank you for listening. Take care.